Hello, I'm doing this video today to show you how I've coloured Princess Tilda. A few people have asked me to do a tutorial, so this is a card I've recently made, so I'm going to show you how I've coloured her up using Distress Ink markers and Distress Ink pads. I'm going to break it down into a couple of different videos, so this first one's just going to focus on skin tones and doing the skin. I've stamped the image on Langton hot press, extra smooth, with stazon ink, and I'm going to be using a couple of different brushes. I'm going to be using a 000 and a 00 brush, and obviously I've got a pot of water as well, and I clean my brushes on a little bit of kitchen paper towel. So let's get started with her then. So using the brush end of my Distress Ink marker, I'm going to just take it around the edges of her face with a fairly light touch, and then taking the 00 brush, I just dab it in some water and shake off the excess, and then I just want to smudge the edges basically, so that I haven't got a hard line. For me, this style of colouring is just all about blending different layers until I get the result I'm looking for. Okay. So you can see I'm not really blending into the middle of her face, just round the edges. So that it gets just looks soft. And as she gets more layers on, you'll see. Okay, so that's her face. Now I would usually work around all the different skin tones around the body and just do a small piece at a time. As I've just done her face, I would avoid her neck immediately afterwards, just because it would be liable to just smudge in. And I've put a little bit too much ink on there, so I'm just going to pick it up and take it off basically. So I'm just getting the water on the brush and smooth it in and remove it, because I don't want it to go all the way across. There we go. And then on her legs, and this one. Okay, and I've got to get this tiny little bit here, and I think I'm not going to get it in with a brush, so I'm going to use the fine point with a really light touch, because I find the fine point leaves quite a strong mark, which is harder to blend out, so you have to be quite gentle with it. Okay, and then just under her neck. There we go, so that's the first coat. Then next I would come in with the Vintage Photo, and I will use the fine point, and I really want a very, very light touch, just sort of almost hovering above the page because it's such a strong colour. And I probably won't go all the way down on that side, rather allow the ink to travel on my brush around. There we go, so you can see it's added a bit of shade. Okay. So just travelling around the skin areas again. I think the best way to look at it is just to add a very little bit of ink and blend it out, because you can always come back and add more, but once you've spent ages colouring it and then put too much ink on, there's only so much you can do to rectify that problem. And unfortunately it does take ages for me to colour like this, so I don't know. Right. Okay, and then just a little bit under her neck. There we go. That'll do for there. Now, to create her cheeks, I don't actually use Distress ink markers because I find that the colour is too bold, so I create it using ink pads. I'll just show you an example where I have used aged mahogany very lightly on this one, and she looks very, very dark pink as opposed to the much more subtle pink that I create with the two pads. So I'll show you how I do that. So I take Tattered Rose and aged mahogany, just press them into the lid so that I can get the ink out, and then using my 000 brush, which I just wet, I pick up a little bit of the aged mahogany and I just mix it in the lid with the Tattered Rose. And because I want to, oops, sorry, wobbling you around, just want to loosen the ink a little bit, I add a little bit more water to it. There you go, that is a little bit lighter. And I would just start very lightly at the edge. And you can see how dark that is. And then slowly, with a sort of circular motion, I'm blending it back to the side of the face, which I would make darker anyway, so that I'll end up with just a very light blush. There we go, and then I'll do her other side. There we go. I'll probably just put another little bit around the edges. Okay, and then I think that's enough for the time being of that. Okay, so now I would just go round with the Tattered Rose fine point to create a bit more definition in the very darkest spots. I would blend them a little bit, but only a very small amount, just close to where they are, because I want them to be a bit stronger. Really pulling the colour out, I'm just smudging the edges of it really, I suppose. And then round her face. Oh. Okay, I think that's enough for that. Right, so we'll stop this one at this point, and then I'll go on to hair in the next one. Okay, thank you.